the edge of a forest, way down there, there was a small house. Who lived there? A man who was a woodcutter. He had a wife and 2 children. The boy was named Hansel and the girl named Gretel. The family was very, very poor. They didn't have much money. They didn't have enough food to eat. All they had left was half a loaf of bread. They had some water. At night, when everyone went to bed, the father, he was worried. He tossed and turned with worry. He thought about his problem. He couldn't sleep. He discussed it with his wife. They talked it over. What shall we do? We don't have enough food to eat. How can we feed Hansel and Gretel? The wife said, that's easy. Let's take them out into the forest and leave them there. Let's leave them. The father said, no, I couldn't do that. Those are my children. I love them. The wife, why did she want to take those children out there? They weren't hers. The woodcutter had a wife who died just recently, and he married again. She was their stepmother. She said, come on. Let's say we don't take them out into the forest. How will we live? The husband, he was weak. He didn't know how to stand up to his wife and say no. He gave in. The wife, she ruled him. The children were in bed, but they were not asleep. They heard their parents discussing. Hansel and Gretel were afraid. But Hansel told Gretel, don't worry, I'll take care of you. I will. Gretel said, oh, please, I'm so afraid. Hansel said, don't worry about it. The next morning, the wife and the husband got up and woke the children. Now all 4 of us, we're going out into the forest. You look for wood and make a wood pile. We will make a fire. We'll sit around the fire and talk and eat our bread and drink our water, okay? Hansel and Gretel knew what they were up to, but they decided to act like they were excited. The wife said to the husband, now you remember, we're going to leave them out in the woods. Now the mother told the children, you go along and get your wood. We'll go over here and look for more wood, and we'll come back, okay? The 2 nodded in agreement. Okay. The 4 made their way out into the forest, and Hansel noticed some shiny stones. He began to gather them as they walked out into the forest. He put them into his pocket and continued to walk. He looked behind him and would drop a stone. They'd walk a little farther and he'd drop another stone. The father looked at him and asked, why are you looking back? I'm just looking at the house. The roof looks so shiny with the sun shining on it. Oh, it's beautiful. The father thought. The wife said, oh, that's not the sun. That's just the way the roof looks. Hansel didn't say anything. Gretel continued to walk on in fear, but Hansel, he kept dropping those stones, making a path to find on the way back. When they reached the deep of the forest, the mother told them, now you go ahead and get more wood. Hansel and Gretel followed her directions and started to pick up more wood. Gretel was so afraid. Hansel said, don't worry, I'll take care of you. The parents had already left the forest and gone home. The children continued to gather wood. They sat there and waited, and their parents didn't come. It seemed they had already gone. Hansel told Gretel, come on, let's go home now. Gretel said, how? We're lost. Don't worry. We can find our way home. You know why? I was dropping little stones on the way out here, so when the moon comes out, it will shine on the stones and we can follow the path. Sure enough, as they walked through the forest, they saw the shiny stones, and they followed the path all the way They entered the house, and the stepmother was surprised. Where have you been? We've been looking for you. We've been waiting and waiting. Where were you?" And she scolded the children. Hansel and Gretel sat quietly, but the father hugged his children and said, "I was worried about you. I was worried. How are you?" "Oh, we're fine." The four of them went back to bed that night. The mother said, "Drat. How did they find their way home? Next time, we'll take them into the forest where they can't find their way back. We'll take them deeper, somewhere where they've never been." The father said, "No, let's not." But the wife knew it was pointless trying to discuss it with him. He was weak. He'd give in. He didn't know how to say no. He would just follow whatever she said to do. The next morning, the stepmother said, "Now, again, we're going out into the forest to find more wood. We'll all sit around the fire and we'll eat our bread." They looked and said, "Oh, okay," but they knew what she was up to. The parents both went and got their wood, and they said, "We'll be back. You children go ahead and build your fire." And they had a beautiful roaring fire. They said, "All right, we'll be back. We're going to get more bread. We'll be right back." The children looked at the parents, but knew what was going to happen. The parents left. They had gone. They ate their bread, and the fire slowly lulled them to sleep. They fell sound asleep. The next morning, the fire had gone out, and they looked around for their parents. Where are they? Where are they?" Hansel said, "Well, don't worry. Remember, as we walked out into the forest, I had some breadcrumbs, and I was dropping them, making a trail for us to follow. Remember? Now, the sun will shine, and we'll be able to find our way home. Don't worry." Now, they got up and began to look for the bread, but the bread was gone. The thousands of birds who live in the forest had come and eaten up all of the breadcrumbs. They were stuck. How in the world would they get home? There were no breadcrumbs to follow. They didn't know the way. They began to walk through the forest, and they searched for a way out. The branches of the trees brushed against their face, and they wandered deeper and farther into the forest, and they were lost. Gretel began to cry, but Hansel tried to comfort her. But Gretel cried. He said, "Don't worry, I'll take care of you." "But I'm scared." "Don't worry, we'll find our way home. Don't you worry." But he was wrong. They were deep into the forest, and they noticed a house. It was made of cookies and candy and lollipops and ice cream. They were excited. They hadn't eaten in a long time. They were hungry. They ran to the house and grabbed a piece and started to eat. And they ate. But inside the house, there was a witch. Children, delicious. I'll wait for them to fall asleep, and I'll eat them up. Ooh. The children were eating that cookie house and just enjoying it. The witch, she acted like she was a nice lady and said, "Oh, children, are you lost?" Yes. Gretel and Hansel said, "We're lost. We can't find our mother." She said, "Oh, don't worry. I'll take care of you. I have plenty of food. So much food you can eat whatever you want. Plenty of food." They were so excited and said, "Thank you, thank you." And they continued eating. The witch cackled in glee. And she grabbed Hansel and put him in a prison. Gretel cried and said, "Oh, no, don't let him out. Stop." Hansel was behind bars. He was frightened. Gretel cried and said, "Stop." The witch pushed the door closed and said, "You get to work. You must cook and clean for him and for me. You must do all of these things." Gretel started to cry. Hansel said, Don't worry. I'll be okay." "Okay," She went to work and cooked and served the witch and served Hansel. Something happened with a fire, and the witch became blinded and couldn't see. But she could still hear Hansel behind the bars, and she could hear Gretel cooking. The witch ordered Gretel around. The witch said, I'm going to fatten him up and make him juicy. I'll eat him all up. Hansel, he was a bright boy. When the witch went to feel his arm, Hansel gave her a bone to feel, and the witch felt it. Too skinny, not enough. You need to eat more food. And Gretel had to cook more food for him, and she served him. And Hansel ate well. He enjoyed the food, but he saved some for his sister Gretel. When the witch wanted to test and see how fat he was getting, Hansel gave her a bone to feel. Too thin, not enough food. You must eat more. Gretel had to cook, but she came up with an idea. The stove's not working. It's not hot enough. I don't know how. The witch said, What a stupid girl. Let me show you. Watch. And she opened the door. See, it's hot. Watch. You must enter it to make sure it's working well. Gretel pushed the witch in and slammed the door and locked it. Gretel ran to Hansel's prison and unlocked it, and they ran to freedom. They ran through the woods, went as fast as they could, but they were lost still. Gretel started to cry. We're lost again. Hansel said, Don't worry. Nearby, there was a stream, and in the stream there was a duck paddling in the water. The duck quacked to the children, and Hansel said, Oh, he must want us to follow. Maybe he's going to help us. The duck continued to paddle down the stream, and the children followed. They went over the stream, and they arrived home. They found their way home. The father was thrilled to see his children, and he gave them a big hug. Hansel and Gretel looked around and said, Where's the stepmother? She's dead. She has died. How did she die? She was sick for a long time. The children were so happy to see their father, and they gave him a big hug.